Hello and welcome to the Thursday GT4 Championship, Season 3, Round 1 here at Spa-Francorchamps, presented by RCI TV. I am Ryan Mawson, joined today in the comms box by Christian Stricker and the one and only Mike Jones, here to give you all the angles of this race. So, Season 3, new stuff for this season, some familiar faces, especially from last season for this driver in particular, Miguel Neto. He won last season, currently sitting in P2. And the slight change from last season to Season 3, there is now 2 races. So you will have your free practice, which we are just about coming to the end to. You will qualify. Then there will be a 20-minute sprint race to kick us off, and then a 40-minute feature race, which means that you've got to know your car and have a setup and have a game plan for not just one race, but 2 races. So yeah, looking through the field, we've got a wide variety of cars, drivers, and so far all looks very, very competitive. And I don't know about you, Christian, but I can't think of a better place to kick off than Spa.
Yeah, Spa is definitely one of those really difficult tracks, and I think it's a perfect place to kick off. I find, especially in the GT4s, that it's very complicated to take Rouge flat, because you can't do it. But also overtaking into the Camel Straight is also quite difficult, because the downforce on these cars is very little, so that means the dirty air doesn't really mean as much. So slipstream is difficult to get into, and also if you're in a KTM, for example, and you're trying to fight against a BMW, that BMW is going to fly away. So different kind of mentality to racing here at Spa, but it's definitely going to give very interesting race for sure.
Yeah, with each car being so different, each car has a big strength and sometimes a big weakness. As we said, it's BMW, an epic car in a straight line, but you will lose out on the brakes to likes of the Porsche, and almost, as much as weird it is weird to say, the Camaro, a very good handling car. We watched Phil Roberts for the Triple R team try take Eau Rouge. But yes, last season was 2 30-minute races, as I'm being told in my ear. So yeah, now you've got a little bit of a sprint, a little bit lighter on the fuel. We should see some very close, good racing in that sprint race. All these drivers will sort of want to maximize that, especially because the race 1 and race 2 are determined by your qualifying. So qualifying in this series is an absolute must. And the other thing that none of these drivers knew, right up until signups closed, they did not know where they were going. So they knew that Spa was round 1. So you've got to pick a car and hope that you can get the best out of it over that season. So you can't just pick a car that is brilliant at one track, because then you're going to struggle for the rest of the season. However, now we know the rest of the calendar, which will be round 2 will be Monza. We have a round at Misano, Brands Hatch, Bathurst, and to round us out at Kyalami. So the BMWs, with their lovely straight line speed, are going to be quite happy at today and at Monza. But I'm really going to have a little bit of a problem with some of maybe the tighter, twistier tracks, Misano and Brands, where I think we're going to see the likes of some of the little Alpines come into battle. And qualifying, well, free practice has ended, coming up into qualifying as the last people bring in their few valid practice laps, getting a little bit more information on the cars, on the tracks, trying to get just those tire pressures dialed in. Quite a mild day today at 23C, so we should expect some fairly good times. As just looking at the top of the board, we're into our first 2 minutes 30 with a 2:30.660 from the 43 of Neto.
Yeah, it's very close to the top for sure. I think definitely the top 3 drivers are within 2/10 of each other, so it might be even closer in qualifying. So as some drivers might be pushing harder in qualifying than they are in free practice. But also I really like the new format, the 20-minute race 1 and 40-minute race 2. It brings out the best of both worlds for GT4 race, in my opinion, because 20 minutes is short enough to have some good battles, but also really push your car to the limit and try and extract all the time you can. But 40 minutes you can lay back a little longer and think more strategically about when you do an overtake, when you don't. So it brings the chaos of GT4s and also the calmness of GT4s into one race.
Yes, and with a 40-minute race, you will have to slightly think about your tires. The problem with a GT4 is once the only grip that you have is that mechanical downforce that you rely on with the tires, the tires and the suspension, You don't have any of the aero such as your GT3 car would do. Once that starts to go, they do get quite happy on the rear end sometimes, and we've seen drivers before really struggling in the last moments of a GT4 race, and that will be where, if you've gone for the strategy of saving your tires, that can really pull into your advantage in the fading moments of the race.
Yeah, for sure. I remember doing a 6-hour race in GT4s here at RCI as well, and I think within half an hour I had 4 slow punctures, and I ended my stint with a tire pressures of 21 psi. So tire saving is definitely going to be a strategy here, and it'll be quite interesting to see who does it best, and also which car is best at tire saving, because I do think there are some advantages to some cars compared to others, but I have not done enough GT4 racing myself to know the difference yet.
Yeah, they all have something about them, each car. And as we said, sort of looking over the top 10 from last season, we do have a couple of the same drivers in this champ as we pull out of the pits into qualifying. So those drivers really had something to have something to prove this season, did phenomenally last season. As we says, Miguel Neto in the it's once again he was in the Porsche Cayman last season. He is in this season, as well as Martin Lorenc. We have Harry Conway and a couple of the other top 10 runners. All will be wanting to show what they can do with this new season, with this new format. And into qualifying, slightly hotter. And this one, as we can see at the top of our screen, is a 10-minute qualifying. It's a bit of a hot shot qualifying with the outlap of Spa. And by the time you've got the tires up to pressure, you don't really have many laps to do. So you can't be throwing laps away. And you really, really want to maximize your time on track versus in the pits.
Yeah, for sure. I think you can't. You probably have one run realistically, because an outlap, if you do 2 outlaps, that's already 5 minutes gone. So that will only give you 2 laps. So you only really have realistic one run. So if you bin it, then that's basically qualifying over already. So it definitely adds to the pressure here. And I'll be interested to see which drivers can produce quickest laps and the least amount of laps as well. Because sometimes the quick drivers, they take a few laps, give or take, 3 or 4, and then they get the best lap. But some are also very good at one-shot qualifying. So it's also a good way to even out the field here.
Absolutely. Some drivers really thrive under the pressure, and the others, we will see them sort of thrive in a race condition when all is said and done. So coming out of Stavlo is Billy Octane in the big V8 boy, the Camaros. Both were first in the server, the 42 and the 33. So the hills are alive with the sound of American V8 muscle. And it will definitely be easy to see what those cars can do. As we says, they are quite agile as a Camaro. They're not really the car that you would expect. You will actually see the BMWs pulling away in a straight line. But as we come up to the timing board, it will be Miguel Neto to take us around a lap on board for what could be a provisional pole. And as it says, winner of last season, so he's got it all to prove here. Coming up to the timing line, they use the GT timing line, but the Formula One timing line for timing, but the GT start into Lecom, hard on the brakes in that Porsche. Turn in, just clip that apex and run out wide. You can actually use a lot of that runoff. And now down the hill, coming to Eau Rouge. Scary sight in real life with how tall that hill is. It is in the game, in the sim, you never quite understand how tall this is. Up the hill, bottoming out the car almost. You've got to keep it steady. Now fighting at the wheel there over the top of Radion. You can see the car starting to get loose. And now up the Kemmel Straight. Another long, long straight, but actually an uphill battle is the Kemmel Straight. Into Lecom. Late on the brakes up the inside of the Audi. Oh, they're going to touch.
That is not ideal at all. That is, that's a hard hit right there. And I think he's going to be quite disappointed with that one. And also, spacing yourself on this track can be very difficult, because we saw right there, he gave about 3-4 seconds, but it wasn't enough as someone, I believe he was on a fast lap. Yeah, he was on a fast lap, but they both collide, and they only have 6 minutes left, so that's only 2 laps they potentially could make now. So that was very unfortunate for sure. But yeah, we're riding on board with Lima, who I believe is on a lap currently, and he's rounding starting to go into the 3rd sector here.
Yes, on board with Talgo Lima. Once again, another person from last season, and another another Porsche driver who is actually Neto's teammate, I've just been told. So both of those will want to be having a good race, a good position. Neto's got to pick himself back up and continue on. But yes, coming out of Stavlo 2, coming up now to Blanchimont, really reeling in the using the power of that Porsche powering up the hill. And it is actually a slight lift in a GT4 car. But as we mentioned with spacing, if we look on the track map, we can see we have such a great turnout for round 1 as well. And this is, well, I believe this isn't even the full, how many signups we've had. I believe we have had around 50 signups for this GT4 league, which is just amazing to see. All sort of amazing drivers. And that will be an invalid lap, sadly. That was a 2:30.1. So no provisional pole as of yet. But, nope, tell a lie. That has just pinged up on the timing screen. So there you go. A 2:30.1, which is actually quite a speedy lap. I was sort of expecting to see the 2:31s first, and then we move down into the 2:30s. But Lima's not hanging around at all in that Porsche.
Yeah, just straight into the 2:30s right there, and I believe this is the fastest lap we've seen all day, really. I think in practice we were in the 2:30.4 or something, so that's a very competitive lap. You can also see by the other drivers that they're all basically a second behind, if not more. So I think Lima can be very happy with that lap for sure. I don't think currently there's not many people looking to challenge him.
Not as of yet, but as we say, there's a lot of people sort of just pacing themselves, getting those tires up to pressure, and then going to go for it. Looking on the timing screen as well, there's actually quite a lot of people up in their sectors. Billy Octane for the 33 Triple R, the Camaro, the chunky boy, already up about half a second. So once again, trending up brilliantly in the first sector. We'll see what he's got, if he's got any more time in the second and third sector. And this man, Alexander Guglia, also looking incredibly strong through the first sector. Sort of everyone that I'm seeing on my timing screen is just all a green time. So I don't think Lima can sort of sit and relax right now. He will have to continue pushing, otherwise people will sort of clamber all over him.
Yeah, for sure, and it seems like he is pushing as well, as he is also green on his Delta, so we might actually be seeing a 2:29 here, which would be quite impressive, I think, to be honest. But also, as Benoit Hardwood, he's nearly a full second up on his time, so that would put him pretty close to Lima's current time. So I think this track's getting faster, drivers are getting more confident. These times are definitely not set in stone yet.
Yeah, Hardwood being one of the few Alpines that we've got. A really sort of strange car in ACC. Great fun, great to handle, but it does have its own little foibles that you've got to tame the car. But Benyat Harwood having no problems with that. And as we says, right up 0.9 seconds, right up behind another Alpine, which is maybe not exactly what you want, but it will give you a tiny bit of slipstream coming up this hill towards Blanchimont. So it might actually be it if he can get within that 1 second, the currently 1.1, as Lima did improve a 2:29.970.
Yeah, it's a absolutely great lap from Lima there, and he has one more lap to improve even further, but I think this is going to be quite close here with Hardwood, but he taps the rear of the Alpine there. That's going to cost him a lot of time. Not ideal at all, and he is going to have to throw that quali run away, and yeah, he might improve a little bit. Now, he does actually improve by 6/10, but still, that definitely cost him a lot of time. That could have been provisional pole position right there.
Absolutely, and he's still got around about one more lap. All these drivers coming across the line will be, but I don't think we're going to get many two-lappers anymore. As Sam Butters moves up to P6, that's a 1 minute 31.266. Very competitive time for the silver class. It puts him in provisional pole of the silver class by quite a margin, about 3/10 down to his fellow silver drivers. And as we've mentioned in RCI before many times, if you are a silver or a pro, it does not matter. You can start pole, you could win the entire race. What matters in silver versus pro is consistency that we will see through these drivers. So, and we've seen it plenty of times in RCI. Not that long ago, I was commentating on a race where we had the win for the race was between two silver cars.
Yeah, it does happen sometimes where a silver driver practices a lot more for one track, and or they just have a specific track they're really good at, and then they fight for the overall wins. And it is more satisfying to win as a silver driver in the overall race, even though it doesn't really matter towards the championship. It just a little bit of a bragging rights. And so far at P7 for Butters, that's a very strong performance considering the next guy he has to worry about is all the way down in P13. So yeah, that's it's pretty split out to be honest with the silver class. Because then P3 in silver is P14, but then there's a 4 cars difference down to the next guy. So yeah, we'll have to see.
Yeah, silver class often seems to get quite heated towards the end of a season that we've always seen. We've seen some phenomenal silver class battles for points where we've been sort of handing out, you know, handfuls of points between cars, which we will get into as the season progresses, obviously. But yeah, you really want to start off your season with a bang if you can. And Atbek Arten wanting to do that, it is a slight improvement, but it keeps him in P5. That will be his last lap. And Sebastian Apostol, what can he do racing up to the line? It is an improvement and up to P3.
That was just blistering lap time there. And the Google and Apostle got really close there in the end to that pole position. But I do think Lima has it so far. I don't really see anyone else challenging them at the moment. So I think that could be his pole position secured with a 2:29. Absolutely blistering lap time. Very, very impressive driving indeed. Let's have a look at the silver drivers. I don't believe there's anyone that's also coming close to Butters. So he might have that one secured as well.
Looks like it. Currently, Adam Banfield on with a flyer, which jumps him up all the way to P5. Last sort of flying ditch lap, which is a 2:30.6 for him. So we're just getting the sort of the final few people filtering back across the line. Luke Wigg in his KTM, one of, I think, 2 KTMs in this championship as well. He's also trending up, silver driver. So that might just about put him one more spot up in silver class. But what you don't know, where is the time for this driver? Is it in the bus stop if they had a slight spin or anything? So we'll have to keep an eye on his relative as it continues up to the line.
Yeah, he also has a little bit of help from the slipstream there in the Aston there, so that might help his case even more here. But we'll have to see into the braking zone if they can manage to keep the distance, or we're going to have another situation as we did with Hardwood where they come together. But I think these guys have it under control as they are the last 2 cars on track. So I think, okay, so the Aston goes a little bit deep. Okay, so he stops his lap there. Okay, he invalidated at Blanchimont, so that is an unfortunate end to his qualifying.
Yeah, it's a sad moment, and as that's rounded out, that will be your qualifying all said and done. Lima takes it with a 2:29.970 as pole position, and then we have Alexander Guglia right behind him, only 0.54, which you have to forgive me a moment, that is 5/10, 500ths behind Lima. And then we have the 420 of Apostol. That's once again less than 0.2 of a second behind. And what's also amazing is sort of the range of cars we have. In the top 10, we have Porsche, BMW, Alpine, Mercedes, and Maserati. It's just all these cars can have such different qualities and race so fast. And in silver class, it was actually Grabau who took it in his Maserati.
That's very impressive indeed. I don't think I've been able to complete a single lap in that Maserati, and it's a very difficult car, especially without the traction control or ABS. So that's quite impressive for him, for sure. To leading silver class and already P7 overall in the standings, that's a respect for him.
Yeah, the Maserati, very more doubt actually one of the more aero-focused cars is that, but as you rightly mentioned, no traction control or ABS, so it's very much a hands-on driving experience, which is quite difficult if you have a slight moment to recover that.
Yeah, but he's nearly 3 tenths up on the rest of the guys, so it seems like he's got that car fine-tuned to his liking, and hopefully in the race he can keep that momentum with him and put out a good performance. But like you said, one little moment is all it takes in Maserati, and it's very difficult to catch.
Yep, and now as we go to the grid, it will be a slightly dark 7 a.m. start for us here. Still sort of 23 degrees C track, so it's not exactly going to be freezing your tires, but it has gone all the way back to green, which means that at some point in the night, we probably had a light sprinkling of rain. Not uncommon here in the Ardennes Forest, and the weather is also not set. It is dynamic, which, I mean, let's be face it, we're in the Ardennes Forest in Spa. We might see a slight spit of rain come maybe race 1, race 2.
Yeah,
But
that is always a risk here at Spa. Especially considering the location of Belgium is like in the Ardennes Forest right there. That's all. It's really poor weather all year round. Doesn't matter if you're in the summer, in the winter. There's going to be rain all year round. So Spa is one of those tracks where rain is more likely to happen. And as you said, a few sprinkles could happen. And I don't actually know which cars are best in the rain for GT4s. We'll have to see.
yeah, so we'll see what happens in the race. So going that, Lima taking the pole, and his teammate Neto, who won last season, all the way down in P8. So both of those drivers have got a something to prove. And while we wait for the drivers you can see them walking around the cars, just doing final checks, getting the setups all done. We would, if you like what you see at RCI and would like more, I would implore you to hit the subscribe button, the bell, leave a comment and a like. It really does help us out. We have pretty much racing streamed now every single day. And tomorrow is one of that I'm really looking forward to. It is the 2-hour special of the Friday GT3 Championship at Zolder with such a tightly packed grid. It will be really something special to watch. So other than that, I would like to thank our partners that we've got, Race Department, AK Informatica, Driver 61, and Raceface Speed Labs. All these people, and Sim Racing GP, so I'm forgetting those. All those people are linked in our bio, in our description, and we would love to go check them out. They keep us at RCI being able to do what we do, bringing you these great high tier, high packed races that we bring. And just about that, I'm looking on the clock. We've got about 20 seconds to the start. You can see everyone vacating the grid, turning the lights on. You'll definitely need those at this early section of the morning.
Yeah, you can see the nerves of the drivers starting to settling in. Everyone's trying to get in the zone, and they've all jumped in their cars now, turned their engines on, and they are ready to go for a 20-minute sprint race here at Spa. I think this is going to be a really exciting one.
Absolutely, especially in the dark. It just sort of adds a bit more flair. You know, you see the exhaust glowing and the brakes as they're coming into some of the hard braking zones. And there goes our pole setter, Lima, on his outlap.
Yeah, it's just beautiful scenes here in the Ardennes Forest here at Spa. I think it's one of the more prettier tracks for sure. The scenery is absolutely amazing. And I know when I'm doing my outlaps at Spa, I always just have a look around, obviously check the car, check everything's okay, get in the zone, but also just admire how beautiful it is here at Spa. And I think some of these drivers were doing that as well because it looks absolutely amazing in this morning dusk.
Spa was one of the only few tracks in real life where I actually got my mother to come and look at it, because what she did is she wandered off and had some of the lovely trails in the Ardennes Forest, and what I did was sit and watch the Spa Speed Week for British GT. So I was busy watching all the cars go around.
That's quite that's a good trade-off, I guess. But I like, especially with how it's like it's just in the middle of a forest out of nowhere. It sort of just creeps up on you. So I'm guessing when she was doing those trails, she could still hear the engines of the cars and still enjoy that beautiful soundtrack that happens every now and then when a race at Spa does come alive.
Oh yeah, and then you can walk around. It's just such a great atmosphere, especially when you go to such events like the Spa 24. It's kind of more than a race. It's, you know, you really get into it. It's more of a lifestyle as well. It's such a lovely thing.
Yeah, it's not just a race. You gather with your mates, you throw on some chicken on the barbecue, and you just have a great time and drink some beers. Enjoy each other's companies, and then watch cars go around for 24 hours. It's absolutely amazing. I believe the 24 Hours of Nürburgring is this weekend as well. So it's very similar style, similar location geographical wise, and I think people will very much enjoy the atmosphere that Nürburgring provides the same way as Spa does.
Yeah, absolutely. You can see Tiger Lima just trying to sort of get some heat in those tires. Will be quite difficult in a GT4 because none of these cars, unlike the GT3s, have tire warmers. So as much as by the time you have done an outlap in a GT3, your tires have dropped off a little bit. These cars start from stone dead cold. Everything, the engines, the brakes, they are all just completely stone dead. You've got to warm them up on the formation lap and really then try and preserve them until they've come up to temperature. Yeah, it's very, very easy to grain them within the first couple of laps, and then basically you can just kiss your pace goodbye if you happen to do that.
Yeah, for sure. And also, you want to. My rule of thumb when I'm driving GT4 is first lap, I always avoid as many curbs as I can because they do catch you out sometimes, and you can get a slow puncture very early on, and then it's a very painful race for sure in these GT4s. But that's also another thing that's so great with them. No tire warmers is more. It's more of a real driving experience, you know, of any age or anything. It's just you and the car, and I really enjoy that aspect.
Well, we have always sort of seen, even in a lot of our multi-class races in RCI, the GT4 pack, they're never really spread out. It's always very, very compact because it is so much harder in these cars to sort of just leave your fellow driver behind. A lot of the times, it's so long as you're still within slipstream range, you can keep with someone pretty well. So it always gives really good racing. And as it says, then some cars will be so much better on the brakes. There's always some kind of a move, and we've seen cars go too wide. I mean, I remember one which was GT4s too wide through Acqua Minerale at Imola, and that move pulled off, and it was just you wouldn't dare think about doing that in a GT3 unless you were slightly crazy. But there we go, lining up 2 by 2, and they will use the other. So even though the timing marker is we're coming up to it, they will actually round Lecom down the straight, and then we will see the green flag. So yep, everyone in position now, waiting for those green lights.
Yeah, this is going to be great. And as you said, fighting in GT4, I do honestly enjoy it over GT3 just because it's so much closer and you have more control of the car. The cars are smaller as well, so this is going to be absolutely amazing. We might even be seeing people go 3 wide at some point, and probably pull it off as well, but we'll have to see. This is I'm very excited for this.
Yeah, but we round Lake Om. Now getting into La Source even. I'm all over the place today. I'm busy looking out the window, seeing who's doing what. Coming down to the start-finish light. When will the lights turn green? Just got to hope now that it's all about reaction times. Can you get the jump on your fellow driver to get that little bit of extra up the Camel Straight? And there we go, green flag. Coming down into Eau Rouge, it's the BMW. Everyone falls back in line, going up over Radion. Very clean start. We have one Mercedes slightly cut in the course, but now, welcome to the Camel Straight, where the BMW reigns supreme. And will he try it on lap 1?
Yeah, this is a very clean start for sure, and that BMW is already looks like he's making gain a little bit early on the brakes compared to the Porsche, so he has to stay behind for now. But then behind him, I can't quite see. Is that the Alpine of Hardwood?
That is the Alpine, the tiny little Alpine, just monstering the BMW on the brakes.
Yeah, just as we mentioned earlier, the difference of the cars is like BMW might be fast and straight, but in the corners, this Alpine is very rapid indeed as well. And yeah, I see yellow flags in the background there, so there's already been a little bit of contact. Happens as far as, especially with this big of a grid, you can't really avoid it. And a little bit of a move there from the Aston Martin on the Mercedes, and a little bit of touching, and I think they're okay for now. But yeah, I think that was Urta and Becher trying to swap positions there, but yeah, Becher is not too happy with that one. But he does live to fight for another day. He's flashing the Merc, just telling him, please be a little more careful next time. But hey, it's GT4 racing, and door-to-door racing is what we expect.
3 wide coming in, and will the BMW hold it? He had the inside for the first corner, but he's now going round the outside, just about squeezes the 294 A fair move, left a car's width just about, but that is it done. And now if you look in the background, we have the 33 of Billy Octane. So I'm just watching this battle, waiting for the moment. You know, there's as much as you want to gain positions, sometimes it is a little bit foolish to try everything that you've got on lap one.
Yeah, it is a little bit foolish, but even then, 20 minutes race, these guys will be want to gaining as many positions as possible. As Lima's nearly pulled out a full second gap already, so he's absolutely flying in that Porsche. But Apostle has got Hardwood behind him. I don't think this battle is over at all, because Hardwood, as we saw in qualifying, he was challenging Lima for that pole position until he collected an Alpine the bus stop chicane. So this will be very interesting to see on the straights and in the braking how they will be able to fight with each other.
Yeah, so possibly Harwood is the slightly faster driver, but when you're stuck behind a car such as the BM, overtaking is incredibly tricky. But I'm being told in my ear by our cameraman, Mike Jones, we have a replay, which I believe was the accident. So this is the start. Alan Ansbury in his Camaro.
That's a big hit.
Yeah, avoiding action. I believe there was a Porsche that was already off, and that just collected numerous cars. I saw the Maserati as well in there. And I believe this is the move by the Mercedes. This is Ertkan getting around to 404. A little bit of a rubbing his racing moment there. Definitely can do that in GT4s. They're not as sort of delicate as you will as GT3s, but yeah, a bit of touring cars happening here today.
Yeah, that's another great thing about GT4 racing. You can afford to give each other a little bit of love taps here and there. So it's fun for sure. And some drivers don't enjoy it, but some do. And as long as both drivers stay on track and no forceful overtakes happen, it's all good. Fun and games at the end of the day. But yeah, that was a rough overtake, but he made it stick, and props to him for doing that. And now we are seeing Lorenk right behind Borzagi. Lawrence, sorry, I've just been told I pronounced that wrong. Sorry, I need to get used to all these names still. But yeah, that BMW is charging down to the Aston, and I think Borzagi is struggling a little bit.
Yeah, Martin Lawrence, another one of the top 10 drivers from last season, did very well, actually finished on the podium. Same car with his BMW M4. So first race, maybe not going entirely the way he wanted it, but you know, there are plenty of more places to go, and we still have the feature race. So even if you have a less than great race one, you can make it up in race two. And this is Grabau looking up for the move on Banfield around the outside of the bus stop in that Maserati. You've got to be careful though, because you don't want to leave the door open too wide. You've still got cars right behind you. And tries for the inside of the second part of the bus stop, but it just wasn't there. He could not get the run that the Porsche could. But very good maneuver. And see if we will try anything coming down to straight. The Porsche runs deep. And that will allow the Maserati up, and now it's a drag race to Eau Rouge. Who dares lift?
Yeah, this is a very intense fighting side by side, and on the outside line, the Porsche, I don't think he's going to concede this, but nor is the Maserati. So, yeah, I think actually both of them have gone kind of wide, and that's going to allow Homa in the back of the BMW maybe to try and get two overtakes. There's a car stopped on the... Oh!
That's Harwood. That is Harwood. Has the Alpine just had a small moment? Looks possible.
Yeah, oh
no, there was one of the cars coming out of the pits.
Oh, that's
Harwood just left with nowhere to go there.
That is not the best pit exit I've seen so far, but that is the nature of Spa. You have to give each other the respect to race, and now I think we're going to see a replay of the pack of 5 or 6 cars coming up behind, and okay, somehow they all... No, okay, I think there was definitely someone getting collected in that. You see spinning behind the trees there. That is super unfortunate. Yeah, as you see Hardwood, hefty damage on the front there of that car.
Yeah, a couple of cars collected in that as well. Avoiding action by most of the drivers, but just some people with nowhere left to go really other than throw it in the wall. You can actually see some of the damage on the Beecher car at 46 looking less than factory fresh. But such a shame for Harwood, just left with nowhere to go and was looking really competitive in that Alpine. So we'll have to keep an eye on him in race 2 though, and see what they can drag back.
Yeah, obviously qualifying counting for both race 1 and 2, so he will be able to bounce back and potentially fight for the longer race indeed. So it's not all over yet, which is also the great stuff of having 2 races. Like, you can mentally reset yourself and then get ready to do an absolutely amazing performance in race 2. So it's not all over yet, but yeah, definitely not the start he would have wanted to the season at all.
No, definitely not. We see Billy Octane. He's under pressure. Oh no, tell a lie. He is actually pressuring Martin Lawrence, which that BMW looks, yeah, less than factory fresh nowadays. And what happened to Lawrence?
I think Lawrence got caught up in that pileup on the Camel Straight there, so I assume that's where his front end damage comes from. But he's definitely going to be struggling now. Luckily, it's only 20 minutes he has to deal with this damage, but that is definitely really unfortunate for sure.
Yeah, so Billy Octane up into P8, promoted there. He's got a fair old way to catch up to that 46 of Beecher. But if those two look like they're battling, Barazini and Beecher, and it doesn't actually take that long when you're fighting with someone that hard, you think that you've got a 4-second gap and you're actually quite safe, but you'll find that that is eroded very quickly if you continue to battle.
Yeah, especially around here at Spa, because if you battle this track, you can lose up to 3 seconds, give or take, just because of the nature of the track and how long it is. So, yeah, these guys will want to try and work a little bit together now to try and stay ahead. But yeah, it's a 20-minute race. We're nearly halfway already, and these guys are just going to give it their all, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can see up in front, Lawrence is still not really giving up, even though he's got damage on that car. He's still all over the 69 of Boardman, sort of saying, you know, I'm damaged in a straight line, but I can still have you in the corners if I want. You can see right under the rear wing of that Camaro. It's just every time that they get to a straight without front end aero damage, he's just losing out the slight sort of, I wouldn't say advantage that car had, but, you know, any damage will slow you down.
Yeah, for sure, and that is unfortunate when you struggle to overtake on straights, especially in the BMW, but that's its strong point. And then in the background we see there, is that the Audi on Bravo, maybe? Yeah, it is. So he makes a move into Buchon. That's a nice move there in the background. Van den Eert, I believe his name is. Apologies if I pronounced that wrong. But yeah, he's as Grabau is getting taken again by not quite. He's defending a little bit on the outside, but the KTM at the end makes his way through. I think he's struggling with damage as well. He got caught up in that crash we saw earlier on the Camel Straight, so that is going to be a painful race as well for him, because that Maserati is definitely very sensitive without damage. So it'll be even worse to drive now for sure.
Yeah, some drivers sort of falling through the order, as it were. But as much as sort of, if you're still damaged, you've still got to get any kind of points you can. We've seen it getting towards the end of RCI seasons where the last race is decided by, you know, handfuls of points, really close. So even if you are damaged, if you can get any points in this race, you can have it. Thacker diving up the inside of that is, I'm not even going to try and pronounce that name for the 59 because I will just butcher it, but does not pull off, far too deep. And now he's got the 49 of Van den Eet, looks up the inside of Lasource. He will give him the room and see if he can hold it around the outside. Van den Eet backs out, looking, sort of thinking about a move elsewhere. But Van den Eet's also under pressure from Lenard in that KTM. So he's now sort of the sandwich in this, as you will. And that's sometimes the worst place to be as a driver. If you go for a move in front of someone, you just open the door for the person behind. And in a pack that close, you can realize that you've gone from trying to gain 1 position and lost 4.
Yeah, for sure. And I think these guys are just going to try their best to keep their positions. But I know there's 9 minutes left. They'll be wanting to take any opportunity they get. As we saw earlier with the BMW going a bit deep there and almost losing out to the Audi. But I've just noticed the top 4 drivers, they've pulled out nearly a 10-second gap already to Puoma here in P5. But he's a leading silver driver and by quite some margin. So he's doing great out here.
Yeah, Palmer having a great start to his silver class battle. Sort of the next silver car way down the order. And this is Svenček. another driver from last year that we had seen. Did quite well. And I think that is the, yep, that is a 308 of Olefi in front of them. Sort of just in this small pack, just trying to catch back up. I don't think he was involved in any of the accidents. I think he was too far back for that, luckily.
Yeah, he's just having a solid race there of his own, and I think people they're just running into the packs right now, and they're just trying to pressure each other into mistakes. It's quite difficult to do here around Spa, especially in GT4s. But I think the mistakes happen more often when you try and overtake, really, than defending. So we'll have to see what is going to happen. But I think is that the Audi of Jackson. He's sort of falling off a little bit of Ayrton, or is it Ayrton falling off behind the pack there? I'm not quite sure. It's hard to tell with these GT4s.
That is the 49 of Van der Neet. And these two still haven't settled it. Looks like the 59 will go for a similar move coming through bus stop. Looks to the inside, but does not. But that's the KTM now. That's KTM of Lennard up the inside of Van der Neet, up into bus stop, holds the position. And now you can see Van der Neet's actually under attack from the 777 of Dorber. Because of that bad exit now, the Aston Martin is all over him. We can see the KTM there, but you can see now, when Van der Neet, that line was compromised, the Aston Martin's now looking around the outside.
Yeah, and we have people going too wide into Rouge, and I think that's Thacker who goes a bit off track there, but they sort of all manage to survive, and is that the KTM? Blasting past all of them on the outside, they're getting two positions in one go. That is a brilliant move, but he now has to try and defend from Van der Neet behind him, who's potentially looking to line up and move up the inside. I can't really see, and is he gonna stick it in? It sort of sticks in a little bit, goes on the curb, but has to go around the outside right now of the 59 BMW, and does make the move stick. So both the KTM and the Audi, they're making up two positions due to the poor exit of the both BMWs there on the Radion.
I think that is what we call a bit of a track limits. The BMW is still not settled with that, and not really happy that Van der Neet got round them. Can the 59 hang it all the way around the outside of No Name? It's a long old way to do, but it does look like both of them managed to do it. And once again, as I says, now that they're battling, the 777's just thinking about it, sort of has the best view of this, because he can just watch everything that's happening out of his windscreen and decide when to take the move, like what Van der Neet and the KTM both gained when those both BMWs had a slow exit out of Eau Rouge. I think the 777 is hoping to do the same.
Yeah, it's a very tight pack right now. Only 5 minutes left to go. Are these guys going to give it all they can to try and make up as many positions as possible? And I think we have Neto on Apostle, maybe going around the outside. No, he's not going to be able to close in enough on the brakes. But Apostle getting very close to the Porsche there on exit. But he's going to maximizing his run down into La Source and maybe go around the outside, but I don't believe he's close enough to do anything just yet.
Well, he's going to try it, going to go for the cutback maneuver, and there you go, up the inside, and now it's once again another drag race down to Eau Rouge, BMW versus Porsche. We've seen this happen a couple of times now, and Neto might actually be the great gainer in all of this, who started out slightly poorly, but is really making their way back up the field all the way into P4. And you can see, look, the BMW had to back off, had to concede, and Neto goes through.
Yeah, that was basically a carbon copy of what we saw last lap with the KTM, and Neto just being patient in the background, knowing these two are going to get, one of them's going to get a compromised exit somewhere, and he just takes the position. That is him promoted to the podium spot right there. That is a brilliant racing from all three of these drivers.
But now he's got around about 2 laps. Can Neto get by Puglia? We've seen Neto did phenomenally last season, actually winning his GT4. So obviously the driver has the pace. We'll just have to see what happens. Beecher now starting to slightly pull away from Barazzini. That sort of small train has been going on a while, with the leading Silver of Pommer still hanging on to them, has let them through, which doesn't affect his race. He's still the leading Silver driver by a mile. So it might actually be a bit of a strategy call, just to let people who are fighting that hard through. You don't need to battle them. They're not your class.
Yeah, for sure. Just hold on to behind them and follow them through, I guess, and they can sort of drag you along as well while that's happening. That's a great strategy, really, if you're silver class, because he doesn't really have anything to worry about. If he doesn't make any mistakes, he's probably going to win this race for silver class. And we see Kjellgren a little bit off the road there. Yeah, we're going to see replay of this now. And does he just go too late in the brakes? And he does. Tries to catch the car. Oh, cuts back into another car, and they both manage to save the cars there. But that is going to give some damage to both of them, and that is an unfortunate incident right there. Now we have Nito on the Porsche of Guglia, as we were saying. He could potentially get that P2 spot, and he's pushing very hard for it now.
Yeah, looks like Neto's going to try anything. We've got realistically still 2 laps to go with where the leader was, which is Lima, who's just a county mile ahead of these guys. You can just about see him going into La Source now, but in a GT4 car, that is an absolute yawning chasm.
Yeah, for sure. And here's the solo driver of Alex Brahma in P7, leading by quite some bit. He's just sticking on behind these guys. He doesn't seem like he's willing to push too hard, but sometimes the racing instinct kicks in, and you want to give it all you can. And now, actually, I think Neto has a bit of a compromised X, and that's going to allow Apostle to, if he gets a good run, potentially try something into Le Com.
Yep, and here we go. Welcome to BMW Speed. Looking out at the rear diffuser cam, that is definitely not what you want to see right in, filling your rear view mirrors if you're that Porsche. Just about pulling alongside, but will it be enough of an overlap? Deep on the brakes is the BMW. Might be too deep though, and it is. The BMW takes to the runoff area, has to concede the place back, and now really he's got to sort of pick himself back up as Apostle and get close back. These guys still haven't sorted it out. Barazzini around the outside of Beecher coming into Le Com, but can Beecher hold it? He has the inside coming down into Brussels, which is generally what you want because it is now another right hand.
Yeah, there's some spicy battling going on there, and right behind them we have the BMW of Fuama. He's just sitting there fine. I don't think he's wanting to make any moves because he knows he's got that silver win in the bag if he doesn't do anything. He doesn't look like he's going to get involved, but that's some good stuff between the two Aston Martins right there. And yeah, Barazzini's sort of losing out a little bit. Now we have, again, this fight for the P2 spot. Close as ever before, and Apostle looking to really pressure Nito into mistake, and Nito as well getting a great run here on Guglia. Maybe trying, it's not really a part of the circuit where you can do an overtake, but these guys are really pushing as hard as they can, and they know there's only really 1 lap left after this one, so this is definitely a fight to watch to the end, and it could end in a heartbreak the way they are driving.
Yeah, well, here is our leader, Tiago Lima. So it looks like he might just cross the line with enough time for another lap, which is could be a blessing for some people, could be a curse coming up to bus stop with barely 14 seconds left. But because we've got the timing board at the F1 style.
Oh, there's a little bit of contact there. All of them going 3 wide. I didn't see what happened there, but off the track goes Googly, and I think Apostle gets through. Nito loses out on that one. Didn't really know what happened there, but we were definitely going 3 wide into the bus stop. That's not really where you want to do it.
So it looks like, once again, the speed of the BMW. Neto trying the move on Guglia, but not to be. Round the outside is the BMW. And Guglia has a small, the rear end of that car gets loose, and just all 3 of them bunch up when you're that close. But they've sort of all picked themselves back up, continuing on, and they've still got 1 lap left. Now, who will this fall into? Because the BMW definitely has the straight line speed advantage of Apostle, who's currently in P3, Neto being bumped off that podium. But can he get back onto it? Or more importantly, can the BMW of Apostle get around Guglia?
Yeah, as we just saw someone off the road there, that's very unfortunate. That's a 96 Audi, I believe. Yellow flags wave, but this battle is not over yet. Very closely on the brakes there. Almost collects the rear end of Apostle there, but he manages to get out of it right at the end there. I think Nito, he's driving with all his heart and might right now, and Guglia is gonna be quite nervous with the 2 drivers behind them pushing as hard as they can. I am very excited about this battle.
Nito had to hit the abort button briefly Yeah, it came right up to the back of that M4, but you can see now how hard the drivers have been pushing. These cars are really getting loose, low fuel and probably slightly worn tires. The BMW's put it up
Oh,
the inside of Guglia, and that is the BMW off. That is the 898 off into the barriers.
oh, that is not the conclusion you want to your race there, and I think he manages to save it in the end, but that was definitely a last-minute dive there, and I think yeah, not much he could do to the Porsche there, and he does manage to save it. I think it keeps out the wall and just gonna spin it around and go back on track. I don't think he loses out too much actually. He's still in P4 as it stands, but yeah, that's a P2 spot taken away from him right there, and I think Nito now is gonna potentially line up a move into the bus stop chicane, seeing how close they are, and I think he's gonna go for it. Maybe.
BMW defending hard, and as you would do for the last corner. But can the Porsche do a cutback maneuver? We've seen it happen before, and it's a drag race to the line, but not to be for Nito. A fantastic drive, a great battle, just was not to be in the last closing moments of this race. But this is only the sprint race. We do have the feature race to redeem yourself in.
Indeed, and that's P1 and P3 as it stands for Phoenix Racing Portugal. And I think they'll be very happy with that. And oh, a little bit of a battle here with Lawrence and Leff, and a bit of a drag race, but I think Lawrence has it covered for now. Leff, although seems nice, he's not going to be able to do it. Oh, contact in the bus stop chicane. Drivers getting a little bit desperate here in the background. Is that Franken and Roberts driving there? A little bit of love taps, but Franken's going to come out ahead. Roberts down in P23. Can't really see where that is in class, but yeah, that's some good fights all around.
Yeah, it looks like towards the fading moments of this, everyone gave it, 110%. And as I says, apart from the sort of leading pack, a lot of the field never really spreads out in GT4. So you end up with these last few moments, which are just people trying everything that they have to get around as the last few people filter across the line. It will be, I believe, the 74 will be our last to cross the line, just coming up to, I think that's Piff Paff. And this is Marco Correa. The 997, probably not exactly the race that he wanted, but as we says, there's always time to go. I believe he was one of the cars caught up in some of those early crashes.
Yeah, we had two big crashes for sure, and that's definitely filtered out some of the drivers back and forth there. And then we see, yeah, Butters, he was up there in the silver class. I think he was P3 in silver starting the race, but now he's all the way down in P36 overall, so he's definitely been in an incident as well, and that's just a very unfortunate start to the season. But hey, it's only the first 20-minute race out of two races here. We got 40 minutes next time around, and he will for sure have the drive to do much better in that race. And I think the drivers will also take a step back and be a little bit less aggressive, as it's double the length of this one.
Well, you would think so. And that is it as the 74 rounds the corner. The last car to take the checkered flag. So now it will be, as we says, race 2. 40-minute sprint race, well, 40-minute feature race even. No mandatory pit stop. So you can brim the car and go the entire route. And I mean, at Spa, with how long that pit is, I definitely would not want to be driving down there if I didn't have to. And yep, it will use the qualifying results. So everyone will be reshuffled back to where they qualified and start for race 2. Means that for a lot of the drivers who were caught up in those big smashes, it's a redeeming race.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the 20-minute sprint race is just sort of a little bit of a teaser to the big race, a little bit of a warm-up per se as well. And I really like this idea of having two races next to each other. I think that the grids can be very different come the end of it, because as you said, we have to preserve tires in the next race, or some people would definitely struggle at the end of the stint, and some people will also decide to push hard at the beginning of the stint and just try and hold off the drivers behind them. As we're going through some of the replays now, I believe that is Joe Gleason leaving the pit lane, and yeah, there's the contact. Not enough space left from either of the drivers there. I can't really say who's at fault, but that's definitely a hefty hit that led to unfortunate events.
Yes, it was just the BM either didn't notice or didn't see Joe coming out of the pits, and a sad bit of contact. As it says, a lot of the drivers now for race 2 will want to be rectifying that. But as we wait for them to once again fix the damage from some of the cars and get back out on the grid, I'll have a quick talk about some of the races that we've got coming up in this season. And it's going to be looking like we're going to have some fantastic racing. As it says, this is round 1 at Spa. We will have, if I can get my notes up, we have round 2 at Monza, which that should be really interesting to see. Some of the smaller cars like the Alpine might actually lose out there, but you know the BMWs and such are very poor on the brakes, which might mean we have a few mistakes coming into the likes of turn 1. Misano, a track that is always close to my heart, really sort of close racing there, and quite a few overtaking spots, especially in the GT4s, which are a lot slower through some of the faster items like Sector 1 and coming into the end of Sector 3. Brands Hatch, which will be, well, Brands Hatch will be Brands Hatch. It's just absolute chaos in GT4s. Bathurst, where we'll really test the drivers. As we says, Bathurst is unforgiving, to say the least. And then we round out with another great and sort of RCI favorite of Kyalami, which has always historically brought us brilliant racing.
Yeah, that's an absolutely amazing track list right there, and I think especially for these GT4 cars, I think probably one of my favorite track lists I've seen for a few seasons now in all championships. I think all these tracks are my favorite tracks. So yeah, I'm very excited for it to see. And as you said, Kailami is a beautiful track for brilliant racing. I think it's a perfect way to round up the season.
Yep, and round 2, as we get a nice panning shot brought to you by Mike Jones, a nice sort of summer's sunrise, and that will definitely be interesting when you're coming up the Kemmel, because that sun will be blaring in your face at some points of this track.
Yeah, and it might be a little bit blinded coming into some of the corners, but I think the drivers get used to it pretty quickly. But yeah, definitely don't need the lights on anymore. It's you can definitely see everything now. It looks beautiful, this scenery, doesn't it?
Yeah, modeled incredibly well in ACC. Sort of, well, it gives it a real atmosphere. Does the ACC at Spa? Everything, you know, the way that the surface is all done, watching the cars go around, it really does feel like you're just there.
Yeah, and someone I see in chat asking for where is the rain. It could still happen. It doesn't look very likely looking at the forecast, to be honest. I think the drivers, or some of them might consider it to be lucky. Some might prefer rain. I don't know, but I think most of the drivers will be happy that there's no rain. But yeah, rain will definitely come for sure during the season. Maybe not today, but I'm sure it'll come eventually.
Now we've got plenty of other tracks that like to throw a spanner in the works with the weather. Kailami often being that sort of South Africa, not uncommon to have a few thunderstorms down that direction. But yeah, second race here at Spa is actually lovely day, lovely clear skies, and doesn't look like you're going to have any chance of rain. So sadly, no rain for these guys.
Yeah, but I don't know if that's a sad thing or not, because the track conditions are beautiful. I'd say that's probably one of the better track conditions to race in. 25 degrees optimum, and yeah, these drivers are going to be loving it. But here they start their formation lap, led by Lima yet again. And as we mentioned in the first race, these cars have no tire warmers, so they're going to have to work harder this time around to warm up, but not as hard as last time, because the track is warmer for sure. So yeah, we'll have to see if they learned anything from the first warm-up lap, and maybe they can do a better job the next time around. And hopefully we'll see another brilliant race this time around.
And as I've just seen in chat, we have someone asking, is this race live stewarded? No, this race is not, but we do have post-race stewarding. So any incidents that you were involved in, you can submit it to our lovely stewards and they will get back to it. So as we move on the season, you will see the points at each start of the race. We'll update them after they've been given penalty points or the points have been changed around, whatever happens. But yes, it is all post-race.
Yeah, and I think that's also an efficient way to do it. Like, it doesn't have to happen instantly. Penalty points can still be applied after the race, so it gives the drivers a little bit of time to, maybe there's an incident that they felt at the moment was unfair, but they look back at it and realize, oh, okay, maybe this wasn't that bad after all, and then they decide not to report it in the end. So also it gives drivers times to calm down and really have a look at what's worth reporting, what's not worth reporting, and gives the stewards a good job, at least an easier job than having to live steward. So it's not a bad thing at all.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll. I mean, you've got to give something for our stewards to do, ain't you? As everyone's going round warming the tyres again for the second time. As we says, back into the places that you qualified, so it means that a lot of the really quick guys that we had seen do really, really well in the first race, right up until the moment where they had that crash, should shine again. And while we are on, once again, the formation lap, I'd like to invite you to sort of like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell, and if you want, join our Discord. We have racing and splits for everyone. Does not matter if you're new to the game or if you're sort of running the same lap times as these lads. We have multiple splits, racing most days. We have big events on at the weekend, like our World Tour, which will be coming up soon. I believe that is the 19th of this month, which is the final race at Suzuka. And multiple endurance races we've had through RCI. And even if you're not in the World Tour, there will always be a one-off event that shadows it. So if you want to take part in a Suzuka race, there will be one that you can join.
Yeah, and I think 10 hours of Suzuka is a perfect way to run off the season. I'm personally driving in the pro split there, and I can't wait to see what my team is able to do. We are in the Bentley though, so we will be struggling, but we're currently fighting for the top 3 position in our class, and yeah, I can't wait for the 10 hours of Suzuka, and I am pretty sure no other team can wait either. It's going to be absolutely amazing. And also, speaking of joining the Discord and all that stuff, if anyone's watching that doesn't have Assetto Corsa Competizione, it's free this weekend. There's also a sale on it, so I highly recommend you have a look at that and pick up the game for a good price. And if you really enjoy it, buy it full time.
Yeah, it's such a it's one of basically my favorite games now. But I rarely play anything else other than ACCs. We can see some of those beautiful panning shots with the camera streaming through the trees. And
Yes.
as Mike Jones has
Beautiful.
mentioned, he's looking at the wheels of Van der Neat, which are very luminous purple, and he's telling us in our ears perfection. And anyone who knows Mike Jones and has ever seen him race in any of our endurances, you can always tell the Mike Jones car because it will be luminous, even if it cannot be luminous. So he's in a Lexus, the wheels will be luminous. Always nice to be able to see him from the comms box. You just look out the window and think, where am I being blinded by? Ah, yes, that car. There he is.
Yeah, very easy to spot Mike Jones all the time, and yeah, it's a great thing with livery editing as well in this game. You can put any colors you want on the cars, and most of the time it'll look good as well. But yeah, the cars are rounding the final corner now, getting ready for the start, and I believe Ryan, you can take us away.
Yep, and once again, race 2 this time. We're coming down to the lights, waiting and waiting, holding that 70 kilometers an hour. And we are... That's a late one today. There we go, green flag underway. We'll see what happens. Will they do a similar thing of fall back in the line, or will the Alpine really want to jump it? The Alpine of Harwood was stuck behind that BM for most of the race, so he wants to get ahead early and sort of pull away from the BMW. But both the Porsches having a brilliant start. Googler looking on the outside, though, of Lima. And it is a move that we have seen Possible do into Lecom, round the outside. And if you can hold it, he has the inside for this corner, but then Lima has the inside for the next 2 corners.
Oh,
and there's a...
Yeah, contact there, and Google is off again. And that is a very unfortunate start for him, for sure. And I think the BMW driver... Oh, another hit there. That's a sketchy rejoin, and I think that's... Always love to start the race off with a bit of carnage. But that's Googly all the way down to the bottom of the pack with a lot of damage. But that's promoted Hardwood up to P2, as Apostle had to lose a position there. I think Apostle's having a rave in his car at the moment. He must be playing some absolute bangers at the moment. He seems to really be rocking that car. But anyways, Hardwood up to P2. Unluckily got caught up in a incident the last race, but he's having a good start so far.
And now can Hardwood run away from the BM? We had seen some brilliant moments from Hardwood doing really, really well in qualifying. And we, as it says, been told in my ear, we have a slight technical glitch with a couple of our cameras. So we'll be very back with you shortly. So we'll go to sort of, as Jesse Lee, who was another one of our commentators, would like to call it, we have Radio RCI, where we don't have any pictures, but we sort of start talking about random things. So I've got a question for you, Christian, which also anyone chat who's watching can play along with this. What do you think is, in your opinion, the coolest car made? Not necessarily the best or the fastest or anything, but what you think is the coolest?
Are you talking about road cars or racing cars?
Any car.
Any cars? That's a big question. I think I quite like the Zenvo. I can't remember the exact name as our cameras are back, but the Zenvo, you know, the one with the wing that bends while you're turning. I think that's a very cool concept indeed, and I think it's a interesting play on aerodynamics for sure. And there's a little bit of contact there from Apostle on Hardwood. Hardwood, huge save there, manages to catch it. Only loses 2 positions from it, but that is a hefty bonk right there, and I think Hardwood will not be happy with that one at all.
Oh, we can see just about as once we'd rejoined, we had the BMW is much more now stable, but yeah, just getting it slightly too late under the brakes. Hardwood saved it, but now he's got all that work to do again. Promoted, well, I said promoted to demoted all the way down to almost P4.
Yeah, and he's got the Maserati behind him to worry about. So he manages to fend him off for now, but yeah, that's Butters up to P6, fighting for P2 in silver right now. He's looking very racy, and he looks like he is willing to take on the Maserati in front of him. And this is a very tight pack, and you see Nito there in P8 there. He has the pace. We saw it earlier in the race 1, and always goes a little bit deeper. But yeah, he's gonna want to get past these guys as soon as possible, because they're not really for a position for him, and they're just holding him up at the moment.
Yeah, Sam Butters all over the back of Grabau in that 570 Maserati. But as it says, we cannot write off that 404 of Pommer. He won race 1 in his silver class, did very well. But some of these drivers were caught up in some of those early crashes. So now it's their time to shine. This guy being especially one of those, Martin Lawrence, for the Connection Lost Racing. Sort of trying to get back his way up the field, was caught up in some of those crashes, so we'll have to see what happens. And there we go, up the move, up the inside of the 14 of Atan, sort of making his way up the field. I fully expect that Martin Lawrence will claw his way up this field over the next 35 and a bit minutes.
Yeah, and the car must feel so much better without damage, so he must be loving in there currently. As you see, side by side goes Nito and the Porsche Butters there, and I think Nito might come out ahead. Oh, goes a little bit wide actually. But he comes back onto the track. They're still running side by side, and I think Nito is ahead into the braking zone. Behind him is the Aston Martin of Becher, and he has a look around the outside there of Butters, and Butters might lose 2 positions here in 2 corners, and it seems like he has, but he might be able to fight back into La Source. And yeah, we see more cars fighting as the KTM from last race, Leonard, leading that pack.
Yeah, that's Leonard trying to fend off the 288 of Roth, which I believe is also Martin Lawrence's teammate. So those two will be wanting to have a good race, just about managing to keep it a little bit deep though into La Source, which will allow the BMW, and there you go, welcome to the straight line speed of the BMW, clears them before we even get to Eau Rouge, so we don't need to have a drag race. And now he's got to worry about sort of the 294 of Kildrin behind.
Yeah, and here we have Hardwood trying to make up for the damages he got earlier with the contact of Postel, and yeah, he's not able to close in the Porsche just now, but he's definitely pushing hard. And yeah, this is a painful fight back, as he might have a little bit of damage on the rear, but it shouldn't be too much, and it shouldn't affect his car. And around the outside, as they both go past the back marker, side by side, into yeah, I believe that is turn 9, and he comes now. He has to stay on the outside for now, but he has the inside for the next corner. Is he able to do anything? Just about manages to get the car stopped. They're still running side by side. he's going to have the advantage into Buhan here, and it'll be, I think he's going to get it, but behind him we have the Maserati of Grabo. He wants some of this battle as well, and Banfield here getting sort of left out to dry, and the two cars get through in one corner. That's the beauty of GT4 racing. You let one car pass, there's always someone right behind ready to take the next.
Yeah, so that promotes Harwood back up into P3. Grabau actually made a fantastic move there, sort of saw what was going to happen, and that promotes him just a little bit further up the field. Still leading Silver Class by a while, but obviously if you've got a couple more cars between you and your rival, it takes the pressure off a little bit. And now he's got Nito right behind him that he's got to worry about, who's on a bit of a recovery drive from that earlier sort of spin.
Yeah, and as we saw there, it was the Porsche of Banfield. He lost out 3 positions in 3 corners. It's very difficult to, once you get a position, it's hard to get back in these trains, and he's going to want to fight back. But still, 30 minutes, just over 30 minutes to go, and anything can happen for sure. And I think Nito as well, he's looking racy and fast. And here we have Gail Green potentially lining up a move on Boardman, not quite getting it close enough under braking, so he's slips behind for now. But this battle is all over the track. Really, it's hard to keep track of who does what here.
Yeah, the Porsche is looking very, very sort of competitive this season, and that is Beecher trying to go around the outside of Banfield at La Source. Not to be though, but he is so close now, coming down into Eau Rouge Radion. If you can hold it coming through and have a bit of a good run, then that will help him. But look in the mirror, you've got that big BMW of Martin Lawrence, and there you go, around the outside. It's getting a little bit more of a draft as well from Banfield, which, if anything, if you're Banfield, that's kind of what you want to do. You want to help get that car behind, past sort of Beach here, and then they can either battle if they want to, sort of slow each other up. And further down the border, we have Linard, who still hasn't given up trying to overtake Boardman in that Camaro. Still giving it everything that he's got in that KTM.
Yeah, you got a little go-kart there versus a big American V8 car. There's two very different cars on the same track, and that's the beauty of GT4 racing as well. Very different characteristics. You see Linard in the corners just urging Boardman through, but Boardman on the straight sort of coming away again from the KTM, and I think Linard, I think it's a matter of when more than if when he makes that move on Boardman, because he is pushing really hard, and I think if he gets a good run out of a corner, or maybe if Boardman goes a little bit deep, he will be ready to take that position.
I like how from the back view we can barely see the KTM. I mean, if you're Boardman and he's right up behind you, you basically disappear in your mirror. It'd just be, well, there was a car there at one point. Where's it gone?
Yeah, it's sort of you can sort of play around with it. Sort of you can look in your mirrors and think at one moment, he's not there, and then suddenly he appears out of nowhere. So the KTM is a bit of a sneaky ninja in that sense, especially when you're driving the Camaro, because it's such a tall car compared to it. But yeah, this is a very good fight so far, and you see in the background there, Kelgreen and Bourdais, they're also battling out in the Porsche and the Aston there, and I think potentially we could see a move here into bus stop chicane.
Looks like it. Martin Lawrence sort of the sandwich in this, but Beecher not giving up on that. Martin Lawrence looks to the inside of the Porsche, but it's not to be. But he's now got Beecher around the outside. Can he hold it? Generally, the outside is the better line for the second half of the bus stop, because you get a slightly better run. But it looks like Beecher has actually managed to hold it just about.
Yeah, but here comes Lawrence again into La Source, and I think he's got the inside covered. So yeah, that's a great run there from Lawrence. And as around goes the Mercedes, and I believe that was contact with I can't tell who was it. And that is very unfortunate, as he has to wait until every single car comes past. And you just see is that the BMW? No, that's the 4-4 car there in the background, just getting a little bit too late on the brakes, and around goes the Mercedes Vert, and that's very unfortunate, and he'll be very upset about that move.
Yeah, it's when everyone bunches up into the sort of into La Source. It is very difficult. That demotes him all the way down from 10th, running very well in the top 10, to 25th. So a lot of work to do. Still got 29 minutes, mind you. We haven't quite made the halfway mark yet, so got to pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and continue the racing. As we said, any point that you gain might just give you that little bit of a competitive edge at the end of the season.
Yeah, for sure. And also in a short season like that, well, not really short, but we have 12 races in total. So it's only 6 tracks for 12 races, so it's still a lot of points still to be had. And here we have Lawrence up the inside of Banfield in Pujon. Banfield going a little bit wide. Lawrence having a better run on the exit there, and he will get ahead. Yes, he will. A little bit of a flashing from Banfield, and he lets him pass again. So maybe he thinks that's a little bit of a forceful move. Yeah, okay, apparently there was a bit of a contact on the way in, so Lawrence conceded the position, which is a very sportsmanlike racing. We like to see that. Sometimes you do make mistakes when racing each other, and it's great to see that you accept your mistakes and allow the other driver through. Here we see Googler, who was P2 at the start of the race, has a bit of damage. Oh, and in the background goes, I didn't catch which car that was, but that is 2 Aston Martins going off the track. Was there contact? I don't believe there was. I'm not sure.
I think there was. I think it was just a look up the inside. And it looks like the Mercedes got deep on the brakes. Oh, in fact, no, there was one Aston Martin that had his own little crash, and the other one, it almost looked like a brake failure.
Yeah, it was that Barazagni or something like that. I think he was maybe too caught up in the racing ahead and he forgot to brake, or he, yeah, like you said, had a brake failure. It happens sometimes. But here we have the solo driver of Proma on the Chevrolet of Billy Octane here, and they're going side by side into La Source. Who is going to come out ahead? I believe Billy Octane is going to cover the inside. But the switchback from Puama's brilliant move there, and he's going to get the great run into Eau Rouge, and he's going to come out ahead. But maybe Billy Octane can try something in the Camel Straight and get the position back.
Yeah, so the switchback maneuver, Palmer getting around Billy Octane into the top 10 now. It's Palmer sort of slowly creeping his way up the grid. He's now got the Alpine of Harwood right in front, which that Alpine, you can just see that time being eroded away by the BMW on the straight. Such a speed difference. And here's Beecher still defending versus Butters in that 74, but then also trying to get around Banfield, who has slightly dropped back now from Martin Lawrence. So obviously Lawrence did get by and is pulling him away slowly.
Yeah, we saw a few cars trying a few moves there in the background there with Puama, Hardwood, and Billy Octane, but they all maintained the position they had for now, and that was a hairy moment indeed, but they all collected it and they lived to race another day. But there's so many battles on this track. It's this is what's brilliant about GT4 racing. It's great cars to fight with.
Yeah, and I'm glad that we only have to commentate on it, because you got Paul Mike Jones here pressing every single button going, because it's pretty much wherever you look, something is happening. It's just hard to keep track of it. We have these 3 Porsches. This is Silver Cup, so this is sort of P5, 6, and 7 in silver class. But as you can see, none of them are really escaping each other. Everyone's just sort of in the bit of the train. And with 25 minutes to go, I think some of these people might actually be pacing it, because we've seen up ahead a lot of really sort of big moves and close racing. But I think some of these drivers are actually settling down to see what they can do at the end of the race. But speaking of not settling down, Beecher still on the back of Banfield, which might actually be a move coming into Blanchemont.
Yeah, these 2 drivers have been fighting tooth and nail for the past 2-3 laps now, and I think they're going side by side. It gets pushed a little bit wide there, and the Porsche in the background might have a look around the outside of Banfield as well, as past goes the Ashton of Beecher, and yeah, the Porsche does make the move stick, and yeah, he covers off the inside, so that is 2 positions lost in 2 corners there for Banfield, and that's very unfortunate. He's just slowly but surely falling a bit behind in the field as he keeps getting caught up by people overtaking him and pushed out in the lines that aren't optimal, and then the guy right behind him just takes the next position.
Yeah, which is what I said a while ago, wasn't it? It is so tricky being that middle driver, because if you go for a move and it doesn't come, then you can lose a place. But equally, if you're the person being overtaken, I mean, we have 4 cars there, all so close that once one person goes by, everyone's going to be trying to go by. And if you look, the Alpine of Harwood, he's still hanging on to the back, just about. But here comes the Porsche in the straight line.
Yeah, it's, I think, 2 drivers going side by side. The Alpine backs out of it, and so does the Aston of the Porsche. Alpine doesn't back out of it. Up the inside, he goes at Banfield. Banfield has to allow him a little bit of space, and you see the BMW in the mirrors right there. I think Alpine's still beside him. Yes, he is. And there's a little bit of contact there, a little bit of push and shove, but Hardwood does get past, and oh, poor Banfield, he just keeps falling behind in these overtakes and getting put into unfortunate positions.
Yeah, it is such hard, as I says, we can see the Alpine sort of doesn't really have anything in the straight line, but then look at the brakes just up the inside of the Porsche, gave each other space, small touch there, but then when you've got this many people so close, it's so hard. You just have a small touch of the curb and that was it. Porsche continues on, but is now sort of got Billy Octane in his mirrors as well.
Yeah, and is that the 404 of Roma there that he's driving? No, against, I believe it was. No, it wasn't. Sorry, that is. I can't figure out which car that is. Banfield's fallen quite a far behind. I'm trying to catch him on track. Okay, he's behind Boardman, so even Boardman got past him as well. So Banfield, I believe it was P4, and he's just been falling behind after every overtake. He's sort of getting bullied around this track, and it's very difficult in these GT4 cars to maintain your position and keep your elbows out, just considering the nature of how the cars are and how small they are.
Yes. So that is kind of it as well. And sometimes once you've sort of rattled a driver, that is it. They fall off. We've seen it a couple of times. Harwood going deep on the brakes into the bus stop. Does not make the move and will give the position back to the Aston Martin, as the 46 of Beecher, who's been battling with for quite a while now. But you can really see he wants to maximize everything he can on the brakes, but sometimes that's just a little bit too a stretch too far.
Yeah, the Alpine, as we know, is very good in the brakes, but I think he overestimated them a little bit there. And now we see Sam Butters on the inside there of Harbert. I think he's got the move done already into Eau Rouge, and we're riding on board with Billy Octane here, who has decided to name himself William Octavian. Quite a posh name for this GT4 series. I respect it.
Yeah, we can see we can say Billiam Octavian in the big boy, the V8 Camaro. So he's found his friend on the track as well, with Boardman being P11. Sort of birds of feather flocked together, could say that. Just about watching that battle up ahead. Once again, that's kind of the best place to be sometimes, is just watching from a distance. You can make much better calls. Jaroslav Roth in a straight line, just blasting past the number 7 Aston of McLaughlin. Was just no real match in a straight line versus a BMW sometimes.
Yeah, these BMWs have a very low end torque, I believe. I think when you drive it, you don't actually need to go below third gear in any corner at all, just with the nature of the car. So it's quite a bizarre one to drive for sure. But yeah, here we have Van den Neets. A little bit more of a calm race for him this time around, as we saw quite a lot of action last race, and he's down there in P18. He's just chilling, having a good time behind the 59 BMW there, and I think he'll be thinking of a move soon, but yeah, it doesn't look like he's closing in too much at the moment.
I think that one we've at least found the award for Mike Jones' favourite car, so we'll have to keep checking back in on that, see how it does. Harwood right up to the back of Butters, got tucking right underneath the wing, but you can see every time we get to a straight, the poor little Alpine just loses out. I believe it is one of the smallest engines in the field, and if my memory serves me right, it is a 1.8 litre turbo 4-cylinder. It's out of a Megane engine, and yeah, poor little thing. Deep on the brakes once again.
Oh,
and
a little bit of contact, but they do survive. That was a very late dive there from Harbert again. A little bit better on the brakes this time around, but Butters covers it off for now, and maybe a switchback move we might see here at La Source, depending on how Butters goes into braking zone. But I think he's got this covered. If you just stay on the inside, that's all you need to do. He doesn't though. Goes a bit wide, and that just allows Hardwood to go through. So there you go, the nimbleness of the Alpine paying off there in the end. But as you were saying, not the greatest engine, but it's very good on the brakes for sure.
Yeah, allowing it to sort of dart the front end. But now you can see where it's going to lose out again. So now he's got to defend. Butters, though, had a bit of a bad exit. So now that might just be enough to hold out the Alpine of Harwood, where he can pull away in the corners. And now Butters has got to worry about the 404 of Palmer. That BMW really looking big in the mirrors now.
Yeah, and that's it's great to see the difference between these cars. We keep talking about it, but that's just because I'm not used to them, so I'm learning as I go as well. I really wish I could do more GT4 racing, to be honest. Which is why anyone who's not signed up for this league, please join the Discord, because we have great racing of all sorts here, and it's amazing stuff we do here at RCI. But here we are on board with Trentech P15 currently, doing well. I believe he was sort of around the same area in last race. He's just having a chill race and applying pressure here on Kelgreen.
Yeah, Svenchek, sort of one of the more regular names that we see around RCI, often does quite well in his class, so just about holding on to that 294 of Kilgreen. But that says we've got 18 minutes left, and a couple of these people, I think, will be trying to preserve any amount of tyre left for that sort of final 10-minute sprint when you're low on fuel, and you know that if you've got a bit of rubber left on the road, that you can really start pushing back up to your quali times and sort of slingshot people then.
Yeah, and I think a perfect example of this is Lima. He's having a great time up there in front, but Apostol's pretty close, but then behind Apostle is an 8-second gap to Nito. So I think these drivers are conserving tires differently for sure, but yeah, the real battling is going on here for P8 currently with Pullman Butters battling for P2 in class with Hardwood right ahead of them. Maybe Butters having a look up the inside and bus stop chicane, or he's not able to do it just because of simply how well that Alpine is on the brakes. But yeah, these drivers having a good little battle there.
And that is the 308 of Olefi. Ran I think that was a better run coming out of Blanchimont. Gets the launch on Svenchek, promotes himself up into the P15, and once again our sort of resident color expert Mike Jones saying it's a very interesting color on that car. I think I would call that biscuit beige with a bit of orange. Reminds me a bit of like a Jaffa cake biscuit.
Sort of a custard cream sort of thing going on at the moment. Yeah, it's a interesting choice of color, but I quite like it, to be honest. It works really well together, and again with the livery editor, you can do whatever you want or whatever your fantasy allows you to do. And I think he's done a great choice of color here, to be honest. And you see here the run the Aston got is amazing compared to the Alpine, and I think he'll get ahead for sure in the braking zone. But the Alpine under the braking is better, and he will go on the inside, a little bit of touching there as he hits the curb and gets a little bit sideways, but it's for now he stays ahead left, but right behind him he has Trentech, and he is very rapid as well.
It's so easy when you touch these cars on the curb to unsettle them. So with how often these drivers can go 2x2 with these cars, it's just any slight wobble will involve a little bit of a touch. But GT4s are at least a lot more forgiving for that. GT3 car will really not like you breaking all of its carbon fiber sort of fancy bits, whereas these cars are often just road cars that have been raced up. They're still steel bodied. Basically the cars that you and I and anyone else can drive around on the road, just with a roll cage and a loud exhaust.
Yeah, that's what I really like about this series as well. It really shares a lot of components with the road cars as well, and it's definitely much cheaper to run as well. So you see a lot of GT4 classes all around the world, and they're great fun cars to drive as well. Honestly, they might not be as fast as GT3, but they're still super fun to drive.
Yeah, and some really, really great racing has come out of them. We've seen multiple times in RCI, going down to last lap battles, people side by side, like we've seen in this race. And I mean, we've still got 14 minutes to go. It's just luckily though, at least for Harwood, he is managing to slowly pull away from Butters lap by lap. Looking at the lap times, just about inching away, which means that now each time that they get to sector 1, which is an almighty straight, he's just got that little bit of a safety net. But speaking of people who are flying in a straight line, Tygo Lima is just in another class, just leaving everyone behind. He's almost 3 seconds ahead of Absol. And then once again, that's another almost 7 seconds back to his fellow teammate who has climbed back up onto the podium. That team looking like they're having a fairly good start to this season.
Yeah, very strong start for sure. As this is actually the position the top three are the same as it was in race 1, so a little bit of a funny thing there, especially considering Nito, he started P8. He's really done a great job to get himself up to that position again. As we saw in qualifying, he did have the pace. He just got a little bit unlucky on his quali runs, and that's a great thing with Spa. You can still have chances to overtake. As I see yellow flags in the background, I believe that's the number 4 car who went off the road. We might see a replay of that soon, or if not, it will continue here on Grabau. He is leading silver class P4 overall in the Maserati. That is brilliant.
Yeah, Grabau though can't really look away too long because he does have Martin Lawrence slowly hunting him down. And as he says, this is the replay of the number 4. Just looks like they've just gone off the road, gone a bit deep.
Yeah,
once again, maybe another problem.
Yeah, it could be a mechanical failure of some sort. These things do happen. Very unfortunate there for that number 4 Porsche there. He's had a pretty unlucky race, and I think that was the final pin in the whatever that saying is. That was the final straw or something. And yeah, he's had a mechanical failure, and that is a sad ending to his campaign here at Spa.
Final nail in the coffin, I think we would say.
That's what I was looking for, exactly.
But yeah, as it's also been pointed out to me, Martin Lawrence, we sort of haven't really talked much about Martin Lawrence. Quite the regular around here in RCI. Really great driver and very respectful driver whenever you see Martin Lawrence racing people. But if you remember, for both of these races, so he had a slight problem in race 1, getting caught up in those crashes. But now with race 2, we haven't had any sort of major dramas. He has moved from P18 all the way up to P5. He's just a monumental drive so far. And he is catching Grabau slowly. And it only takes a moment in that Maserati to lose just the slightest bit of concentration, and Lawrence will be all over him. It might not be enough time to catch up to the likes of Nato, but it will make Lawrence's start to his campaign much, much better.
Yeah, very impressive drive so far. He's picked his moments when to overtake. He's been very mature about it, very thoughtful and strategic when he overtakes. And quite often you saw at the beginning of the race he was following cars through when someone went wide, and that's just all you need to do. He's been calm and collected, and now he's up in P5. It's been great to watch and quite inspiring in some ways. That is, even if you start P18, you can still make it to the top if you believe in yourself and if you know you have the pace.
Yes, and most time if your name is Martin Lawrence, he always seems to pull it out of the hat. But you can see, look, we're reeling in the Maserati now, going through Brussels and up to No Name. Maserati looking actually a little bit unsettled through some corners, so that might be sort of the point that his tires are starting to give off, and Lawrence is really starting to reel him in. But for Grabau, it doesn't actually mean anything because he's P1 in silver class by a county mile over Butters, who's down in P7.
Yeah, I mean, his Butters is only about 4 or 5 seconds behind him, but that's still a pretty big gap, especially considering there's only 10 minutes left to go. But the Maserati, without any ABS or TC, I think it chews through tires more than the other cars as well. So he really has to manage those tires, and all it takes is one lockup, and he's going to be having a very difficult session if that lockup is hefty. So it doesn't look like he's done one yet, but yeah, I think it's coming to that point now where Lawrence has preserved his tires better than Grabau and is just slowly reeling him in. But Grabau, for now, being very smart about it as well, just will probably let Lawrence by without a huge fight because he knows he still is at P1 in class.
Yeah, and then, as he says, when you get to the end of the season, any points is points. We've had races decided by handfuls of points before. And I mean, the last race that I commentated on, for example, so the pro category was decided by who won that race. And whoever won that race actually left Silverstone in the lead. And it turns out that that was actually Billy Octane, who is in that big chunky Camaro.
Yeah, that's I remember watching that last season. That was a very intense fight as well. Very interesting for sure. And here we have a replay of Lev and I believe that is Svenček. That is Svenček a little bit late on the brakes, and Lev does manage to keep it ahead for now, but yeah, that's compromises exit a little bit. It just shows a little mistake in these cars. You can still manage to catch it. Oh, as around goes Svenček, as I believe he was turned around in La Source. That is very unfortunate, and I didn't see who made contact with him, but that is That is yeah. Here we have the race replay. It was the 59 BMW behind, sort of alongside, a little bit of space given, not really space given, and then yeah, around he goes and into the wall as well. Yeah, that's with 9 minutes to go. That is heartbreaking to see.
Yeah, Svenchek now from 15th to 22nd. Still has got some people in front of him though to battle with, so it's not all over. And some of these drivers are still pro class members. And Harwood now going on the back of the 98. Harwood's had a bit of an interesting race. He's been very up and down, but what a cutback maneuver with that Alpine. A slight touch, but can he hang it around the outside of No Name now? It's very hard to do in such a twitchy car. Slight touch, you can see both of the drivers fighting the cars and squeezing the Aston Martin down.
Yeah,
And
into Puhan, I think Harwood does manage to get ahead for now, but the Aston Martin of Bourdais is going to get a greater run as he goes a bit wide, and that he just leaves Harwood in the clutches of the Porsche behind, and he does manage to outbrake him for now. But as Aston Martin goes pretty deep, and that's going to allow Harwood to come past, and also the Porsche of Kelgren to come past. A little bit of mistake, and that is 2 positions lost. But that just shows how close these guys are racing. Also, earlier with a little bit of bumping and contact, that would have been a disaster in the GT3, but these GT4 cars, they held on to it.
yeah, and for Borodal, that's sadly lost him actually 1 place in his silver category, which is what we said earlier sometimes. Obviously, you are fully entitled to battle anyone on this track, pro or not. But if you do so, you sort of put your own race in danger. And now he's back down behind the 294 of Kelgren. There has to work that back up. And we didn't catch it on camera, but that was Martin Lawrence did get by Grabau. So that's Martin Lawrence to P4, P18 to P4, mind you.
Yeah, an absolutely brilliant drive, and there's still 6 minutes left in the race, and yeah, depending on because there was a few incidents earlier on, depending on how the stewards deem those incidents, he could potentially be looking at a podium position here.
Yeah, he's sort of half of the race is keeping your nose clean, and the other half of the race is what you can do on the racetrack. And this big train, I think, will definitely not sort itself out towards the end. Thacker's sort of in a safer place. Everyone in front of him is a pro car. He has Tom Bryant right behind him as well, which is his next silver rival. But other than that, he's just sort of got to keep it clean towards the end. And there is Tom Bryant in one of the other Camaros we have in the field. I think we have 3 or 4 now, which is a nice turnout to see.
I believe there's 4 Camaros, and I think I drove it in 6-hour all-time race, and I really enjoyed it. Even though it wasn't the greatest, I still really enjoyed driving it. It's such a fun thing to hoon around, especially over curves. It doesn't really care about them; it just eats them like there's no tomorrow. And yeah, it's just the presence you have in the Camaro is just big as well. It's nice being a big boy on a track with small cars.
Yeah, and I mean, that will really come into its own when you get to tracks like Brands Hatch, where the later section and Sheen curve and such like that. Yeah, that is merely a suggestion. That curve we'll just run over it like it's nothing.
Yeah, and as we heard, Mike Jones, he really likes that big V8 motor as well. So yeah, definitely a really fun car to drive and to look at. And here's the other Mike Jones car of Van den Niet with the purple rims there, and he's down in P17 right behind Roth, trying to make a move to make past. It doesn't really make it stick, but yeah, we're going on to the back straight towards Blanchimont soon, and that is potential move you can do into the bus stop chicane if he just gets a good exit.
Yeah, the Audi is a strange GT4 to drive. It can be very good, but it has its own little foibles. When I've talked to people who have done endurance races in it here at RCI, the team that ran it in the Bathurst 12 hours mainly complained that the brakes like to go spongy towards the end of stints, and it's very easy to actually damage the engine because you can over rev it on the downshifts. It has a lot of these cars feature the same gearboxes that the road cars have, and the downshift protection apparently on the Audi is a little bit lacking, so you can often get the yellow engine warning light on. Not exactly what you wanted, but because of that slight compromised exit look, that is the 93 of Camberger. thinking around the outside, thinks about the cutback as well, but there's nothing to be there. The speed overlap was not great enough. Now we'll see if the Audi can run away coming up Eau Rouge.
I do think the Audi is a beautiful car, even with its little foibles. It's very enjoyable to watch it race around, especially the R8 in real life is the road car is amazing to watch, and I think that is a reason why I would pick it as well, just because I think it's such a nice car to look at, even though maybe a little bit difficult to handle or has spongy brakes. But here we go, we see the Porsche with the great run, potentially looking into move into Lecombe up the inside, does make the move stick, and not really though, as he gets really sideways into the barrier he goes. That is very deeply on the brakes, hits the curb a little bit, and he gets spat out by the track. A little bit too eager, I think, into that braking zone.
Yes, and that is part of what the Porsche can do if you're super hard on the brakes. And as we see Svenček also looking for the move up the inside of the Porsche, hits the abort button at the very last second and has a small slide. Well to save the car though, continuing on. But once again, a few more places lost and now down into 24th. But as it says, the Porsche, if you are super late on the brakes, because a lot of them feature the road car gearboxes, which that one's a PDK, if you unload the rear end, it starts doing weird things with the differential, and it will actually spit you off quite quickly. And the Porsche being more of a mid-engine car, the Cayman has got the engine more mid-mounted than the 911s hanging out of the rear. It handles very much like a mid-engine car, where once it's gone, it's kind of, that's it. You do not drive the car drives you.
Yeah, you sort of get overtaken by your own car, sort of thing, when that happens, and it's quite a scary moment indeed. But I still believe that Cayman is an absolute beauty to drive, and we're seeing it here. That Lima and Nito, especially, both of them, maximizing the way the car can drive and having a brilliant performance today.
And that is our man Billiam Octavian trying to catch back up to the 404 of Palmer. These guys have sort of been vaguely pacing each other for a while. Looking at the last lap times, they're very close. So no one's really super pulling away from each other. And it will look, we've probably got maybe one more lap. It depends where our leader is, which I'm trying to see on my timing screen as well. They're just coming through Brussels. So yeah, this might actually be the last lap.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. There was no leader on the last lap message, but depending Lima, he might want to shorten this race a little bit. As last time around, he crossed the line with 8 seconds to go, and he does have the time in hand to slow down a little bit. But yeah, he's. I've just been told that no matter how fast he goes, he will not be able to. No matter how much no matter how fast he goes, he will be able to cross the line, and the race will finish. So yeah, this is the final lap indeed.
And that is Asbury off in the gravel in his Camaro, rejoining the track. Back to our leader, Tiago Lima. A great drive, held it both races from basically lights to flag, and has been relatively unchallenged apart from sort of the first few moments in the opening laps when you've got those sort of big speed cars behind you, like the BMW, that really want to go for it. But it was not to be. After a few laps, it pulled away, and that was it. Everyone else battling behind you. And that will mean that for their race, the Phoenix Racing team, with him in P1 and his teammate in P3, that will have a brilliant start to their season. Tiago Lima crosses the line and takes the checkered flag for round 1 of Season 3 GT4 at RCI.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant drive from the Phoenix Racing Portugal team. And it's not over yet, though, on track, as we see Pimlot and Van der Niet battling out a little bit here. Pimlot actually gets a brilliant exit, and there we are probably going to see something happen into the bus stop chicane, if not a Blanchimont. Having a little bit of a look up the inside, but he stays behind in the slipstream for now. As that Audi is slowly but surely creeping away, yeah, as he lifts a little bit, allows the Audi to get ahead. But Van der Niet goes pretty deep, but I still think it's a little bit too far away now to do anything in the braking zone. Yeah, I think Van der Niet, actually he closes in quite a lot, but not enough to do anything. Yeah, Van der Niet will maintain this position for now, even though it's brilliant racing and it's been really close. And what an exciting finish to the race for them.
It briefly looked like Pinlock might have had the drive, but it was not to be. There was still the car there. Going down the ranks, Tom Bryant takes P25 for the Triple R, the other Camaro in the field, with Billiam Octavian taking P9 for that team.
That's a good performance from them as well. As there's only 4 Camaros on the grid, and I'm sure they'll be happy with that. Any result they can get. Billiam Octavian doing a great performance as well, and Brabau winning the silver class in P5 overall in the Maserati. That's also a very respectable job indeed.
Yeah, so as the final few people cross the line, your top 10 will be Tao Lima, and if it actually wants to update, there we go. So Tao Lima, Apostle, Neto, Martin Lawrence, Grabau, who is our silver class winner, Beecher, Butters, Palmer, Billiam, Octavian, and Boardman round out the top 10. And
Yeah,
obviously, P1, 2, and 3 for silver was Grabau, Butters, and Palmer. So great starts to the season, and great start, like I said, to the Phoenix Racing team. Both races being P1, P3.
Yeah. Those are 2 very exciting races for sure. What a way to start off this season 3 of GT4 racing. I can't wait to see what's in store for us in the next few races to come.
Yes, which next time we will be going over to Monza. So if you don't want to miss that, then like, comment, subscribe, and hit that bell button so you don't miss any of the racing here at RCI. Join our Discord if you want to get involved. As it says, we have splits for every person from starting out in sim racing to high pros, which like what these people are running around tonight. Plenty of racing to get involved. We have basically races all throughout the week now, including tomorrow's Friday GT3 Championship, which, as it says, was that special 2-hour at Zolder. We have Monday championship on Monday. We have the Wednesday Diamond Drive Cup, which is in its 2nd season now. Thursday GT4. And then we have Night Owl, which is season 4. And that is also coming up to its finale. So don't miss that as well. Anything that you want to add, Christian? Final thoughts? Been a hectic race.
I think you summed it up beautifully there. And yeah, as you said, hectic race, really enjoyable. GT4 cars, for the people who haven't given them a chance, please give them a chance. The DLC is on sale currently. So if you haven't picked it up, I think now is the time to do it, because they are absolutely amazing to race with, amazing to drive, super good fun. Just because of slower lap times does not mean they are worse cars to drive. And also, if you're looking into getting into Assetto Corsa, it is a free weekend this week. So definitely look into picking that up as well.
Yes, well, from me, from Mike Jones and Christian Stricker, we hope to see you at the next one.